Call to order the regular scheduled meeting of the Ascension Parish Council for Thursday, July 19, 2012. Call to order, Mr. Randy Clue will lead us in the pledge, followed by Troop 65 Scouts leading us in the pledge. Please stand.
Please stand. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this opportunity in Ascension Parish. Lord, let's look over all the residents within this storm season and this hurricane season. We're halfway through. Take us to the end, free and safe. Lord, we have a special intention tonight. We have prayers for Councilman Dempsey Lambert and his family for their loss. And Lord, we ask for a special blessing for the loss of a Dutchtown student today. We ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen. I'd like to call up the Scouts from Troop 65 to lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. Roll call, Madam Secretary, please show Councilman Chris Lohr, Dempsey Lambert, and Oliver Joseph absent at this time. There's no chairs additions for the night. Public comment period. Anyone wishing to speak on any agenda item, please come up, sign up with the Secretary. You'll have 3 minutes when that item comes up on the agenda to speak. We don't have any presentations tonight. Parish President's report, Mr. Mornes, nothing? We'll move on to the consent agenda. Looking for a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Ms. Terry Casso. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Moving on to general business, item 8, we have a speaker, Ms. Catherine Goppel.
Good evening, I'm Catherine Guppelt. Currently, Fire District 1 is located entirely in East Ascension and relies mostly on volunteers. These volunteers are extremely dedicated to protecting property and saving lives and show great courage in responding to calls 24 hours a day. Their commitment and bravery is admirable. With the exception of industry and those in the Prairieville Fire District 3, all property owners in East Ascension will be voting on this new proposed fire tax. Pay close attention to the timing of the 15 mil 10-year property tax and additional parcel fee. The ballot resolution shows that precincts in the city of Gonzales will be voting for this proposed tax, even though Gonzales residents already pay taxes and receive fire protection services through the city. If this tax passes, Gonzales residents will be double taxed for fire protection. How will this affect the pocketbook of every property owner in Gonzales, Galvez Lake, Santa Maria, Geismar, Darrow, Sorrento, Brittany, and parts of the Dutchtown area? Fire protection is currently funded through sales tax. This is the first millage or property tax for fire in East Ascension, but surely will not be the last. The millage alone will be an additional 15% increase in property taxes. The average homeowner whose house is assessed at a value of $150,000 will pay an additional $112.50 on their yearly tax bill, according to the Fire Board. In addition, each owner will pay, on top of the 15 mills, another $32 a year parcel fee, and every commercial lot a $100 parcel fee. This proposed tax, if passed, will more than triple the budget for Fire District 1 from $1.5 million to over $5 million. The foot dragging and multiple postponements to place this tax on the ballot on December 8th rather than November 6th will be costing Ascension Parish taxpayers more than $50,000, which could be used to address actual needs. The politics of the Fire Board strategically placed this tax for a special election on December 8th because they know there will be a low turnout and greater likelihood that the tax will pass. Property owners in Prairieville will be paying close to an additional $80,000 for fire protection, as Fire District 3 plans to increase taxes this year because of property reassessments that are mandated by the state. State taxes, federal taxes, local taxes, property taxes, sales taxes, taxes on gas, fire tax, and now you want to tax our garbage. Whether you call it a franchise fee or a parcel fee, it's a tax. What will be next? The proposed half-cent road tax is on the November 6th ballot, and you are looking for money to fund sewer. Half of our income is spent on taxes. How much more can you expect citizens to pay? We are already so overtaxed. Wake up, citizens. The hand in your pocket is not yours. It's your vote. It's your wallet. Thank you.
Item number 8 is a resolution granting approval to the Fire Protection District Number 1 of the Parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana, to call and hold an election on December 8, 2012, to authorize the levy and collection of 15 mil ad valorem tax and an annual parcel fee of $100 per commercial parcel and $32 per residential parcel, beginning in the year 2013 and continuing for a period of 10 years for the purpose of acquiring, constructing, maintaining, and operating fire protection facilities and equipment within the district. Before you get to that, we'll call up Fire District 1 Chairman, Mr. James LeBlanc.
I definitely do not have any prepared speech tonight, but I would like to say that Fire District Number 1 does cover the Santa Maria, 5th Ward, 7 districts, Sorrento, Galvez Lake, and Geismar areas. And I can tell you, if you look in this room tonight, you're looking at a room full of volunteer firemen that get up every single day and go to bed every night taking care of you. Just this week alone, these volunteer firemen responded to 3 CPR calls in Fire District Number 1. We're sad to say that 1 individual didn't make it, but 2 did. And I'd like to remind you that that's volunteer firemen that are doing that, not paid people. So we've already come to you at your finance meeting in June. We've already came to you last 2 weeks ago in Donaldsonville. The only thing I'm going to comment about the Donaldsonville meeting, it was very disturbing when you've been a volunteer fireman your entire life. It's the only thing I've ever done. I've lived here my whole life, and I've volunteered here my whole life. It was very disturbing to hear things at the July 5th that this was another politicking move. This was Washington liberals. I've never been to Washington in my life. I don't even know the definition of a liberal. But I will tell you this, and I will tell the residents of Ascension Parish this. You look at me, and I'm telling you, not one of these 11 councilmen sitting on this board up here had anything to do with this tax. And I will tell the residents of Ascension Parish that not one person that sits on this staff had anything to do with this tax. If you're going to blame anybody for putting a tax on the ballot on December 8th, you blame the volunteer firemen that have been working their tails off their whole entire lives for you. Now, all we're asking is that you come help us. All we're asking, forget all the politics, forget all the rumors, forget all the finger pointing. All we're asking is that you put it on the ballot on December 8th. Let the people vote. If they vote for it and the tax passes, we get to do things now that we don't get to do right now. If the tax doesn't pass, we go back to scratching and we go back to taking care of the people like we're doing. All right? One area in the parish already pays 20 mills. They've done exactly what they said they was going to do with the money. They're doing exactly what they're doing. The city of Gonzales passed a fire tax. They're doing exactly what they said they was going to do with the money. The Donaldsonville area passed a tax. They're doing exactly what they said they was going to do with the money. All we're asking is we finally got 6 volunteer fire departments to finally come together as one. Look around the room. It took this many years to get them all to come together as one and say, you know what, we're ready for the next step. Don't blame me. Don't blame Fire District Number 1 because only 3% of the people is voting. You got 6 months, people in Ascension Parish, Fire District Number 1, you got 6 months to absorb this tax into your minds. And when you get behind that curtain on December 8th, you vote your will. If it passes, we moving forward. If it don't pass, we keep it on like we keep it on. And all I'm asking for the council to do is just put it on the agenda. No hidden agendas here. Put it on December 8th. Just all we're asking for you to do is put it on the ballot. Let the people speak. Thank you.
James, just a point of clarity, y'all did pass a resolution at the fire board meeting to approve this, correct? Move forward.
That is correct.
Motion.
Got a motion by Mr. Randy Kluart to put this on the December 8th ballot. Do I hear a second? Second by Mr. Kent Shakespeare. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Sadler.
Thank you. Fire Chief, thank you for your report, and let me lend my voice to the one public speaker we had this afternoon and say I applaud you and the rest of the fire individuals I see throughout the courtroom tonight and the fine service that they do provide. That being said, it's clear, I think, from the past, you mentioned the finance meeting of this council on June 4th. Again, the Gonzales meeting on the 21st of the full parish council, and most recently on the 5th of the current month, July, where we met again in Donaldsonville. I was vocal at all three of these meetings, indicating, and again, this is nothing in my mind to do with the tax at all. I believe what you said is absolutely correct, Fire Chief. This is a personal thing, and when a person gets behind the curtains, they need to vote. They're conscious whether they're for it or not. I'm not here to say I'm against the tax. I'm not here to say I'm for the tax. I'm here to do two things, as I've tried to do 3 times before, but since our chairman tonight has said we finally do have a resolution. It was pulled at 2 of those previous meetings I just mentioned or postponed. We now have the resolution. I spoke last time about literally even without it, it was pretty much boilerplate off of the special election we had back in April of last year in my own district. And you know, whether we like it or not, it did have, for that 10 mil 10-year added property tax, 102 vote margin as reported by the Morning Advocate, with 414 people voting for, 3 against, with a 3.7% voter turnout. I believe that's abysmal. I believe that we can do some things, I think, if we really try to do better than that and have a higher voter turnout by putting this election on the November 6th ballot when we're going to elect a president of the United States, as opposed to continuing the idea of doing this in December. And toward that end, in addition to the voter turnout that was mentioned, is the expense, and more on that later, of holding these special elections. But first I want to put into the record two additional articles. One entitled Local Officials Warn. This was published in the Morning Advocate recently. In fact, it was in February of 2011, of what they're calling voter fatigue, and that it's on the rise, and that it's affecting seriously the election process in our state. Secretary of State Scheidler, for example, published some information at a recent bond commission meeting, where he said that if you look just between the years of 2005 and 2011, state-approved special elections have cost the taxpayers a whopping $1,058,641. And that was according to the state's legislative auditor's report issued in April of 2011. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to inform you that our state, Louisiana, ranked first, #1, nationally, that's all 50 states, for the number of emergency or special elections held from January 2005 to December of 2010. During that period of time, Secretary of State Scheidler indicated we held 70 special elections. He said that this was, and I'm going to quote him, substantially too many elections, and it's contributing to this idea of voter fatigue. In fact, our nearest competitors, for anyone that's interesting and likes to keep score in these matters, was the states of Georgia, which had only 38, and Florida, I want to say, only 37. But that's a big jump down just from the 70 that we had here in the state of Louisiana. Okay? So, Scheidler said the state, therefore, needs to do what? Rein in the number of special elections granted each year to local governing bodies that appeal for the state for these emergency elections. He said, quote, when a local entity needs to do something, we need to look at other election times where we can share the cost of these elections. To me, it only makes sense, excuse me, I misspoke, it makes no sense to call a special election when you can either wait 4 or 5 weeks or have the election 4 or 5 weeks earlier, which is the case here. Again, the difference between November 6th and December 8th. That happens, he said, all too frequently in the state of Louisiana. We just need to learn how to consolidate these elections. Lafayette Parish Clerk of Court, Louis Perrette, agreed with the Secretary of State's idea. Quoting him, he said, we have far too many elections that are too expensive and don't result in increased voter participation. In fact, it has the opposite effect. Perrette went on to say, recently we spent $70,000 in Lafayette Parish in an election that less than 10% voters turned out. It borders on, and this is his words, not mine, quote, criminality, unquote, to me. And it certainly is a waste of taxpayer dollars, said Perrette. Political science professor, University of Louisiana at Lafayette, Pearson Cross, had this to say: special elections contributes to voter fatigue when voters across the state are asked to, quote, go to the polls many times to decide matters of too little import. Tangipahoa Clerk Court, Julian Dufresh, said voters generally do not show up in large numbers for proposition-only elections unless the proposition involves an especially controversial issue. For instance, he cited a recent gravity drainage issue that covered about 2/3 of the entire parish of Tangipahoa, but it drew only 1,625 voters out of a possible 52,064, or an abysmal 3.1% of the registered voters. In contrast, a mayoral race for mayor in the town of Independence drew 60.1%. The worst of all, one precinct in Tangipahoa recently saw only 7 people vote out of 1,440 registered voters for a turnout of 0.49%. And it was on a gravity drainage issue, again, according to Secretary of State's figures. And then last but not least, C.B. Fergotston, a political blogger, an attorney in the city of Hammond, had the following to offer. He said, quote, the tremendous number of elections is having a direct effect on voter turnout. We're having record lows because of voter fatigue. He said he's doubtful that this will ever happen as far as getting rid of them because of, he called them sneaky special elections, unquote. His words, ladies and gentlemen, not mine. They're a way, he said, of local governments to try to pass taxes by calling for elections when people are least likely to vote. Now again, let me go on record to say this, and be very careful, anybody that wants to judge Doc Satterlee. I am not here tonight to tell anyone how to vote. I believe, however, I was elected for 2 reasons in terms of special elections, and one is to ensure that we maximize the ability for people to vote, and then number 2, to be good shepherds of the taxpayers' dollars. We're going to be asking Donaldsonville at our next regularly scheduled meeting, I saw this in the newspaper, to roll forward the taxes in my district for that special election that had that 3.7% turnout last April before I was elected. And that's going to result in another $79,000 in revenue. So we saved $79,000 in revenue there, only to spend it on another $70,000 in a different fire district in the parish by holding a special election that I don't believe we need to have. I will conclude with this, because I'm going to offer a substitute motion, Mr. Chairman. I have spoke to Mr. Whitman Kling. For those who don't know who that is, that's the state bond commissioner. He said, and I quote, and by the way, he told me any councilman or anybody of an authority position that would want to ask for a waiver for this election to please call him. His number is 342-0040. Okay? Mr. Kling said, quote, according to state law, okay, elections, all of them, have to be promulgated with the Secretary of State's office 45 days before an election date. In the case of this election, then, that would be August the 27th. So I said, well, Mr. Kling, they've postponed this 3 times, and we're going to be a day short because we're meeting on the 19th. That's today. And the deadline for the special election approval, to put it on the November 6th ballot would be yesterday, July 18th. He told me it didn't matter because he said a waiver could be given because the State Bonding Commission is actually going to have the last meeting of the year on August the 16th, which is almost a full month from now, meaning we would just have to sit with the fire folks, because I know they want the same thing that we all want, maximum voter turnout, which should ensure the passing of this tax, as well as not wasting that $70,000 on an election we don't need. In fact, he went on further to say that if for some reason we can't get ready in another 30 days with a resolution fully written, and the only thing needed, in my opinion, is 3 strike-throughs now, not the 13 I talked about last month. Just the millage is now there, the districts have been adjusted, all the precincts are named, etc. It's just the changing of December 8th to November 6th. So he said if we missed it, again on August 16th, there was going to be a special ad hoc meeting, as he said is every year, between the dates of August 16th to the 27th, which, if you remember, that's the last day to promulgate in the Secretary of State's office 45 days before an election. He said it could be brought up then. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer a substitute motion that we accept this resolution, but that we alter the date from December 8th, eliminating the need for a special election, and hold this election on November 6th. And I thank everyone for listening.
We've got a substitute motion to change the election date from December to November. It's by Mr. Sadler, a second by Mr. Melanson. Any further discussion? Mr. Shakespeare.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple things. Just because some people come and speak in that before that microphone doesn't necessarily mean that everything they say is true. I appreciate Mr. Satterley coming out with all the things about too many elections in Louisiana. I agree with him 100%. We do have too many elections in Louisiana. However, this argument is not for this council. This argument is for in Baton Rouge with our legislatures to decide on how many elections we legally have. And I choose to take the stance of supporting these firefighters that have been working not just the last couple of years or the last couple of months, but years to bring this together in order to get agreements so they could get a millage going on, so they can go within their lives, be able to fight fires and get enough assistance so they can keep doing this. And we can talk about all the other things that are around, about why we want to change the election and all of that, but the fact of the matter is it's all semantics, and they don't want Fire District Number 1 to get more money so they can get assistance to get their fight fires in the district and make it better for them, so that these great volunteers can continue to volunteer. We're over 1,000 calls this past year, a month. It's ridiculous. Need some help. And the money, it's a thing about services. Nobody's going to give you anything. And if the people of Ascension Parish want services, if you want fire protection, you need to pay for it. It's very simple. I've looked into Fire District Number 1. They've been on a shoestring for years and years and years. They've done everything they could to stretch out the monies. They spent ungodly amount of time doing volunteer work and things that they really, I just don't see how they do it. It's time in Ascension Parish we start giving back and try to assist them to allow them to do their jobs and protect us. And let's call it like it is. It's a legal election. It's done whenever they thought it was the best time to do it, and you're either for it or against it. And that's it. I'm against this amendment to the resolution, and I think we need to move forward. All of the other stuff is done. So I applaud them for all the work that is done and coming together. People don't know how hard it is to get that many people to agree on something, and I applaud all the hard work these people have done. And so that's it.
Councilman Kluwak. Councilman Kluwak.
Yeah, I want to take this opportunity to, although the volunteers out there within the last week, you were unsuccessful at keeping a life. I want to thank you very personally for the life that y'all saved the other night, not far from my home. And just to let you know, Mr. Chairman, that I'm against the amended motion, so I think we need a roll call.
I got some.
Question
Mr.
on the
Melanson?
motion.
We're up question on the motion.
Question on the motion.
Vote on the question.
Are you closing discussion, Mr. Chairman?
We've got a question on the motion, yes, sir. We vote on the question to see if we want to end discussion on the motion. So we do a roll call for the questions, Mr. Secretary.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, I think I'm allowed to respond to
No.
Mr. Schexnayder's comments. Robert's Rules of Order demands the same.
Once a question's been called, Mr. Mann, if I'm correct, there's a question being called, the debate ends. Is that
Calling
correct?
of the question is out of order.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
My understanding of it is when the question's been called on the motion is, discussion at that point ends. If the vote passes to end discussion, and the end discussion is ending the vote on the
I
motion.
call for a question.
Question calls
We
for
got a
immediate
question.
vote.
That's correct. So we'll do a vote on the question.
It's not parliamentary procedure.
Ms. Goshen.
Councilwoman Kazo,
Yes.
Councilman Kluat.
Now, we're
voting
voting
on
on
the
the amended motion.
No, we're
We're
voting on the
voting on the
question, end
question.
discussion.
To end
Okay,
discussion.
yes.
Councilman Todd Lambert.
No, I'd like to listen to the discussion.
Councilman Melanson.
No.
Councilman Satterley.
No.
Councilman Shake Snyder.
Yes.
Councilman Turner.
Yes.
Councilman Joseph.
Did legal ever answer the question, is Mr. Sadler right or Mr. Shake Snyder right
You question.
on the question?
She said she wasn't a parliamentarian. She didn't answer the question.
You can answer that?
I'm a veteran, yes, here. I'm not a professional parliamentarian.
Yeah,
But I've had this come up several times over the course of my 25 years. I think Councilman Shakespeare is right. If the vote is to call the question, that ends discussion, then you vote on the motion.
right.
It's my understanding of it. Yes, sir.
So it's whoever jumps to the mic first, is that how we're going to rule here this evening?
I think you'll have opportunity when we go back to
Sorry.
the
The
original
debate
motion.
continues. If the vote-
That's correct.
If the vote is to stop the debate stops.
Correct. Thank you, sir.
It's parliamentary system.
So we're voting on the amended motion.
No, we're still waiting on a vote on the question,
To keep the,
the debate going or not.
Yes.
You're voting yes to keep the
Yes.
debate going?
yes.
So that would be a no.
Yes, it's a no.
You voting yes for the question, to end debate, or to keep it going?
So it's 4-4.
It's a no. Chairman Johnson, it's a tie.
Hang on a second. Councilman, you voting yes to
Yes.
end debate?
Yes.
He's voting yes to end debate.
Okay.
What?
No, that's not
Is that- A yes
No,
ends,
no, no, hold on.
a yes end debate, a no continues debate. Okay, he's voting no, which means there's a tie. I'm gonna break the tie and vote yes in debate. So move on to the substitute motion, call for a vote. Any opposed to the
Yes.
substitute?
Yes.
Do a roll call, Ms. Secretary.
Councilwoman Kazo.
Yes.
Councilman Kluat.
Excuse me, wait,
Yes.
wait, hold up. Are
Make sure we
we,
understand.
Okay, we're voting on the substitute motion to
No.
change the
okay.
election date from from December to November.
No.
You want to start over?
Yes.
Start over, please.
Councilwoman Kazo.
Excuse me.
No.
Hang on one second.
I've huddled with the CAO. I think the whatever position you want to be, assistant to the attorney. I think the vote on calling the question has to be 2/3.
Does it? Okay.
I don't think y'all had 2/3.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
That is a correct ruling, Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman.
All right. So we'll hold off on the vote on the amendment. Mr. Melanson had the floor.
Yeah, first I wanted to say, I take offense to that, Mr. Shake Snyder, to say you either for it or against it, because to say that we're debating the fact of whether, just because something is legal doesn't mean it's right. And so to say that just because there's an election that day, but we have most of the precincts, I know there's going to be some lighting district stuff come up, but most of the precincts that are covered under this fire protection district will not have anything on the ballot that day. So we will be costing a lot of money to the parish, to the taxpayers, just to hold this election, for no other reason other than this one election when we have one so close. I support the fire departments 100%. I've got a lot of friends sitting out here. I've said it over and over again, I've got a lot of family that are police officers, that have been police officers. I've served in the military. I love all people that are willing to serve and willing to give and willing to risk their life to serve. I thank you for everything that you do, but our job up here is we have a fiscal responsibility to the taxpayers of the parish. And in looking out for that responsibility, for us to spend an additional $60,000 to $70,000 that doesn't have to be spent, and when personally I think that with a higher turnout on a tax for the fire districts, you're going to get an even higher yes vote anyway, in my personal opinion, because I think most people are going to get out and support it. I feel that way. But I don't think that it's right for us to spend taxpayers' dollars that wouldn't be spent in order to do that. I mean, it's just, to me, that's a waste, and we're not being responsible with that. And so to say that you're either for it or against it, because if you're voting to be fiscally responsible and thinking it's better to put it in November than December, that you are against the fire department, that's a flat-out lie, and it's an attack on the character of anybody that's going to vote against or vote for this motion for that reason. And the other thing that I had, I think Mr. Malcolm Dugas was in here. Is he still here? I had a question for you on, and Ms. Goppel brought it up. We talked about this a little bit before, but the city of Gonzales has its own fire district, correct? So all the precincts that are in here, do we need to do like amend the motion for it to take those out, or would that just be taken out later? What do we need to do for that? Because and Chief James, you can probably answer this, but the people that live in the city limits shouldn't be voting on this, correct? Because it's not going to affect them.
They won't.
There's no-
They won't be. Let me explain to you how the precincts were listed.
Okay.
When I was asked to prepare the resolution, I contacted the parish, and through the parish's mapping department, I asked them to give me the precincts who are in Fire District Number 1.
Okay.
The first time that I got the response, it showed that some of the precincts that were included were on the West Bank. Well, I don't know all of the fire districts, the precincts that are in Fire District Number 1, but I know that the West Bank is not included in Fire District Number 1. So I got back in touch with the mapping department. They sent me another listing. And in that listing, Councilman Lawson, I think, is where you're picking up some precincts that are in the city limits
Somewhere around 8 of them or so that
Gonzales.
be in there, I think.
In contacting, in talking with the Secretary of State, they will not give you an answer prior to the time that you submit the resolution for their review and approval. But once they receive the resolution, then they will go through the listing of the precincts and determine whether or not there are precincts included that should not be included.
Okay.
So when Ms. Goppel said that there would be precincts that would be within the city limits of Gonzales that would be double taxed is incorrect.
Okay.
If they are not in Fire District Number 1, but in City of Gonzales, then it will not be subject to this
So it won't
fire
go in their
district
ballot.
tax.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Castle?
Mr. Duga, I had a question. Is this a specially called election, or is this a regularly scheduled election date in the state of Louisiana?
Yes, ma'am. The Secretary of State, as Mr. Schexnayder pointed out, determines when the elections are going to be held. All propositions that I have prepared, we call them propositions that are to be brought up at special elections because it's a special tax. But the election itself is not a special election. It is an election that is set during a date that is predetermined by the Secretary of State. So whether or not the council could not just arbitrarily pick a date that is not already selected by the Secretary of State. It has to be a date that's already chosen. And those are chosen at the beginning of the year. So the two remaining dates are November and December.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Parish President, Mr. Dugas, while you're still here, can you also answer the deadline?
Yes.
I heard Mr. Sadley say that you have till August 18th. Is that correct?
When the election schedule comes out, we make a list or a timeline to determine, when the proposition needs to be presented to the parish council, then when it needs to be, when the application needs to be made to the bond council, because there are certain deadlines. In this particular instance, the deadline, if you were going to get on the November ballot, was July 18th, which was yesterday. Coincidentally, I got a copy of a letter that's dated July the 18th from the State Bond Commission which says that due to the fact that the application date and the bond commission meeting were close together, that they would extend the application date for the November election to August 6th. And that bond commission meeting would be held on August 27th. So under those particular regulations, if you wanted to be on the November ballot, you could now have until August 6th to make application with the bond commission. Now, as I understand it, and I've been told by the bond commission, if you miss a date, you can make a written request to the director, who is Mr. Kling, and ask him for a waiver. But that is taken up on a case-by-case basis. So there's no guarantee that you will get the waiver. There's no guarantee that you won't, but it's on a case-by-case basis.
Malcolm, I have one question for you. As far back as I can remember, the December election following the presidential election is not that small of an election cycle, is it not? I mean, we're not talking like February or March or April of type of cycle. I mean, this is typically we wind up with, not all the time, but a lot of times we may have a congressional election, a U.S. congressman, that type of deal. So this is not that small of an election.
No. I mean,
the potential anyway.
Potentially. And as of right now, on the December ballot are also tax renewals for lighting districts 1 through 6, which are on the East Bank.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Sadler.
Thank you. I, too, take exception with some of the comments made by Councilman Scheck-Snyder, and I'm going to try one more time to try to set this record straight. Mr. Scheck-Snyder said, and I quote, "The argument," I'll be inserting words here because I believe he meant to hold or not hold election on December 8th, "is not for this council to decide. It's for the firefighters to decide." I wholeheartedly disagree. Wholeheartedly. We are the governing authority of the parish. True, the fire service entities involved in their committee and so forth come to us for permission to hold the election. But to say that we shouldn't be able to alter the date and suggest a better date that would save people taxpayer money and likely vote in a much, much larger turnout is crazy. It'd be like saying that, this council could decide tomorrow, or any entity could come before us and say, we demand that you eat wheat bread instead of whole bread. And just because they did it and they operate in our parish, we would say, we can't alter that. We can't alter anything they say because precedent's been set, etc. So I disagree. I think it's our job, and frankly, I think it's our responsibility to do the best things, to be good shepherds of the people's money, as well as to ensure the optimum opportunity for everyone to vote. Another thing he said is, the truth is, the people against this don't want Fire District 1 to get more money. Again, like I said, I'm going to try one more time. I am not against the holding of an election. What I'm against is what I believe strongly to be the improper timing of that election. It is not my job to decide whether or not the people, it's not even in my district, should be taxed more to provide more services or not. That's for the people who will be going to those 40-some-odd precincts. That's going to cost us, again, another $60,000, $70,000 to decide. So please, do not light me up on the blog sites. Do not call me and tell me that I'm against the firefighters. Every one of them out there in their dress blues, I greatly respect. Last time there was aspersions on my character that the old chicken doctor, I've heard enough now. What's he going to do if there's a meth lab, etc.? I'm going to call the fire department. Or if I have a child at the bottom of the swimming pool, or some older person that has a stroke or whatever and needs CPR, or if I need someone to remove me or my family or anyone from the flames of fire, please, let's not continue to grandstand and say this has anything to do with people, and I quote, that don't want the Fire District 1 to get more money. Let the people decide that, save the money of the election, and let the majority of the will of the people speak. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. This will be the vote on the amendment to move the election from December to November. Call for a vote. Anybody opposed?
Yes. I oppose.
Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Councilwoman Kazo.
No.
Councilman Kluot.
No.
Councilman Joseph.
No.
Councilman Todd Lambert.
No.
Councilman Brian Melanson.
Yes.
Councilman Satterlee.
Yes.
Councilman Shake Snyder.
No.
Councilman Turner.
No.
Substitute motion fails. We'll move on to the full motion for the resolution. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, resolution passes. Moving on to the planning and zoning recommendations. Item 9, we have 3 speakers. The first one is Ms. Ava Meyer. Ms. Meyer, please approach. You'll have 3 minutes to speak on this agenda item.
Good evening, council members. My name is Irva Mars. And first of all, I'd like to remind you that this is a rezoning issue. It is not a daycare issue. It is about rezoning a large conservation area into a small spot of mixed use. This would certainly be spot zoning. Years ago, when our parish was sparsely populated, had large farms, and people had large tracts of land, someone would build a store or a service station, and that was fine. But then as the land began to be subdivided and more people moved into our area, we began to have a hodgepodge of stuff, of buildings. There was no rhyme or reason. So we looked at it, Parish looked at it, and decided that we needed to set aside certain areas for commercial, for industrial, conservation, rural, and so forth. Rezoning came about to preserve the character and integrity of an area. It's my understanding that Ms. Robertson has a petition of people that signed wanting to have this area rezoned, or maybe wanting to have a daycare. I don't know what the petition exactly says, but I did canvass the immediate neighborhood. I spoke with them, and there was no one who signed the petition and no one who was for this rezoning. So I'm rather curious as to see who did sign the petition. There's also a potential for problems other than just spot zoning. This is located on a very busy highway, Highway 431, and all of you know how busy that highway is in the morning and afternoon when children would be dropped off and picked up. There's also a potential drainage problem. This particular lot is in a low area that used to be a natural drainage area, but as time progressed and homes were built, it's kind of been plugged up and backed up. There is a small drainage lot through this particular drainage ditch through this particular property. If rezoning did occur, to meet the flood stage criteria, the daycare would have to be built either on piers or have lots of dirt hauled in. And when you haul in lots of dirt, you're putting water on your neighbors, and this is not right. I have full confidence that you will take the information and facts that you've gathered and use your wisdom and deny this rezoning request. I have my full faith in each of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Mr. Ronald Brown.
Good evening, Council. My name is Randall Brown. I have A to Z Kids Zone Daycare and Learning Center, and I would just like to remind y'all that we do cover all the schools in our district. On that side, we cover Lakeside, Galvez, Central, and Lake. and I would rather not see another daycare that close. I got a lot invested in this one that I have. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last speaker on this item will be Ms. Miranda Robinson.
My name is Miranda Robertson, and I'm the owner of the property that is being rezoned to rezone it commercial for a child care facility for the new Lakeside School, which the zoning committee observes to be residential. When placing our schools in a residential area and asking our children to attend the schools in their district, we need other businesses and services to service our schools and the people within the district. There is currently a daycare that is located 2 miles, which is A to Z zone. This daycare only services the area with vans, which goes to 3 other daycares. The buses do not go to this daycare. And parents want convenience for their children. They do not want to worry about how is the child going to get to the daycare. They want the buses to take them there. I did speak to Mr. Brown and one of his employees, and from what I was told, the daycare does not have any openings. I have a 4-year-old child that's fixing to go to Lakeside, and I cannot find a child care in that area for him. So they do not have any openings. And when turning the parents around with no openings and not having child care should be by far exceed any concerns as little as some healthy competition. Lakeside School has 623 children, Galvez 500, Lake Primary 900, and Central 750. And after doing the research, this leaves 89% of our children without child care services within the area. Today's day and age that people want convenience and they want it at their doorstep. You know, they will pay $5 to go two minutes down the road instead of, 15 minutes down the street, no matter the business. I did have a petition signed, and within 3 days, it says I agree to rezone the property on 431, a MU2 commercial property, and within 3 days I received 53 signatures, and they know that this is to rezone the property commercial as a MU2. It does not say anything about a daycare. I did express to them that a daycare will be put here. The last meeting, I could not respond to any of the comments. I did not know what to expect, and they had 3 concerns. One of the concerns was with the traffic, and the traffic within the area, it is no different than what is on Old Jefferson, 73, and 42. It will be no difference. I will put a circle drive and also put a place where you can move over to the side.
Your time's up, Ms. Robinson. You need to wrap it up.
Okay. Also, I want to say one more thing with the way that this, what is if, they're asking what if, and I said the property opens up for the business. I will live there. I'm not going to move off of the property. And the way it currently sits now, it can hold 55 kids, and that is to make it failure-proof. They worried about it failing and some other business coming within this area. And the way that I have planned it, as it grows, it will grow.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Robinson.
Thank you.
Item 9 is zoning review ID 2227.12, Lot 2 Lake Settlement for Miranda Robinson, located on the east side of LA Highway 431, approximately 300 feet north of Lake Settlement Road, to request to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from Conservation C to Mixed Use 2, MU2. Zoning Commission recommends denial of this application.
Motion to accept the recommendation of the Zoning Commission.
We have a motion by Mr. Sadler, a second by Mr. Todd Lambert. Any discussion? Mr. Lambert.
Yeah, I guess one thing, and we're coming from conservation all the way to mixed use too. That's a drastic move in that area, and I understand the folks that are against it. It's quite a bit of move, and it could, be a sore eye for them.
Can I say one more thing?
No, ma'am. Okay. Anything else? Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Item number 10, zoning review ID 2230.12, lots 2A, 3B1, and 1B of Autumn View subdivision for Ascension Parish, located on the east side of Autumn View Drive, approximately 300 feet north of Highway 42, to request to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from medium intensity residential to mixed use 2. Zoning Commission recommends approval of this item.
So move.
Motion by Councilman Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Melanson. Any discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Item number 11, amendment to the Ascension Parish Development Code, zoning, historic site overlay revisions. Zoning Commission recommends approval.
Move to accept.
Motion by Councilman Shake Snyder to accept.
Second.
Second by Ms. Casso. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes. Item 12, industrial zoning designations, revision of the Parish Unified Land Development Code. Zoning Commission recommends approval.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Councilman Lambert, second by Councilman Kluwat. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes. Item 13, overlay zones, to revise language in the ordinance to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map. Zoning Commission recommends approval.
So move.
Motion by Councilman Shake Snyder,
Second.
second by Councilwoman Casso. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes. Introduction of ordinances. Item 14, Ms. Mandel.
Introduction of ordinance, budget amendment number 2, an ordinance to amend the ordinance approving, adopting, and appropriating the 2012 operating and capital budgets for the Parish of Ascension, adopted by the council on the 17th day of November 2011.
Motion introduced.
Move to introduce.
Motion by Councilman Shake Snyder, second by Councilman Kluwat. Any objection? Ordinance is introduced. Item 15,
Introduction of an ordinance to declare as surplus and authorize the sale of miscellaneous movable equipment.
So move.
motion by Councilman Shake Snyder,
Second.
second by Councilman Lambert. Any opposition? Motion passes. Item 16,
Introduction of ordinance to amend the Ascension Parish Code of Ordinances, Chapter 19, Roads and Bridges and Other Public Ways, Article 3, Pipelines Constructions, Sections 19 through 36 through 19 through 42.
Mr. Chairman.
motion by Councilman Melanson, second by Councilman Kluwat. Any objections? Ordinance is introduced. 16A,
Introduction of an ordinance to declare a surplus 15 feet of abandoned right-of-way, portion of Toledo Avenue, and a portion of Pelican Crossing, third filing.
Move to introduce.
motion by Councilman Shake Snyder, second by Councilman Lambert. Any objection? Order. This is it. It was emailed to
They had
us.
handed them out before we got here, so when you came late, they might have picked it up.
Any objection? Ordinance is introduced. Move to our public hearing, the ordinance section of the agenda. Item number 17, Ms. Mandel.
Purpose, to declare as surplus property 2 parcels of immovable property currently owned by the Parish of Ascension bearing the following municipal addresses: 39129 West Worthy Road, Gonzales, Louisiana, and 39222 West Worthy Road, Gonzales, Louisiana. Once designated as surplus property, the Parish of Ascension shall sell said surplus properties pursuant to Louisiana Revised Statute 33:4712 et sec. Whereas the Parish of Ascension owns property more particularly described in Exhibit A, attached hereto and made a part hereof, that was initially acquired for the purposes of the West Worthy Road widening projects number 01-W-05 by council action on January 19, 2006 and December 4, 2008. Whereas the Ascension Parish Council, through the powers granted under the Home Rule Charter, has authority to declare property belonging to the parish as surplus and transfer said property according to the law. And whereas it is the high recommendation of the Ascension Parish President that said property be declared surplus and transferred according to the law, therefore be it ordained that the Ascension Parish Council declares that the property described in Exhibit A, attached hereto and made a part hereof, be declared surplus and be sold by cash sale to the highest bidder with a minimum bid amount to be determined by 2 appraisals for each parcel to be completed at a later date.
Motion to open public hearing.
Motion by Councilman Melanson, open the public hearing. Second by Councilman Turner.
Yeah, I had an amendment to the,
Well, hang on 1 minute with that. Anyone wishing to speak on this item will have 3 minutes to come up and speak.
Motion to close.
Motion to close by
Second.
Councilman Lambert. Second. Second by Councilman Lawson. The public hearing is closed. Councilman Turner.
yeah, I want to make an amendment to it on the last paragraph, last sentence, where it says determined by two appraisals. Want to make it say determined by the average of the two appraisals to be the minimum amount that the land could be sold for.
Everyone understand the amendment?
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Turner, second by Councilman Melanson. Discussion? Mr.
Is
Lambert.
this some property that we bought when we did the road? Are we putting the same value on it that we paid for it?
I doubt it, because looking at the dates dating back to 2000.
You know, if we paid for it, we already did our appraisal on it at that.
Yes, but
So we know where we
appraisals generally
need
are
to be.
stale after about 6 months.
Okay.
You could probably, under the law, I don't think you're required to, you're required to get an appraisal. I don't think the law specifically says when an appraisal goes stale.
Okay. 'Cause I know we paid top dollar for the
Yes.
land. That's why I'm
Yes.
trying to make that point that we try to get the appraisals for prime land, yeah.
Just to
Councilman
make,
Turner.
I guess to make it easier for the amendment, just have it written as with the minimum sale price being the average of the two appraisals. It was a little confusing the first time I said it. I think that might clear it up and make it easier.
That's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Clear on the amendment? Any other questions? I hear a motion on ordinance. Motion by Councilman Turner, second by Councilman Shake Snyder. Any opposed? Ordinance passes. Item 20.
Purpose. The purpose of this ordinance is to declare the design criteria that is used when designing a drainage plan system for development shall utilize for the 24-hour rainfall event as determined by the current technical paper published by the National Weather Service. This criterion is already identified in Section 175013A. Therefore, Section 174045A conflicts with this requirement. This proposed amendment will make the two regulations match to clean up the discrepancy. Whereas Ascension Parish is a local governmental subdivision as defined by Article 6, Section 44 of the Louisiana Constitution of 1974, and whereas the Parish of Ascension is the governing and responsible body over the zoning and regulations within this jurisdiction, and whereas Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish, adopted May 4th, 1993, identifies the process and manner in which to adopt ordinances regulating the lands of this parish, and whereas the Ascension Parish Regional Planning Commission adopted the subdivision regulations as part of the official plan of the parish in accordance with the Louisiana Revised Statutes on January 21st, 1971, and whereas the Parish Council adopted this regulation as Appendix 4 of the Unified Land Development Code on December 17th, 2009, and whereas it is necessary to make the change to clarify the discrepancy within the code for consistent enforcement of public life, safety, and welfare, be it ordained by the Ascension Parish Governing Authority that Section 17-4045, Paragraph A of the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code is amended as follows. 17-4045, Drainage, Design and Construction Criteria. All drainage design shall be based on calculations of a 10-year, 24-hour rainfall as determined by Technical Paper 40, published by the National Weather Service, currently 8.5 inches. In the event that any portion of this ordinance is ever held invalid or unconstitutional for any reason by any court of competent jurisdiction over it, such a portion shall be deemed a separate, distinct, and independent provision and shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of the ordinance.
Motion for the public hearing. Motion by Councilman Kluwat, second by Councilman Lambert. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, come up and sign in with the secretary. You'll be given 3 minutes.
Motion to close, Mr.
Motion to close by Councilman Lambert. Second by Councilman Kluwat. We got a motion to move to ordinance by Councilman Kluwat, second by Councilman Lambert. Any discussion? Mr. Kluwat.
I just want to point out to everybody that this is basically a clarification that we have two different parts of our code that conflict in explanation, and this will make the two regulations match up.
Any further discussion? Any objection? Ordinance passes. Item 23.
Purpose, to revoke a portion of a 12-foot utility servitude located on and across Lot 99 of the second filing of Oak Alley Estates. Whereas the petitioners have petitioned the Ascension Parish Council to revoke a portion of the dedication, more specifically described in the attached exhibit, and whereas the Department of Public Works and Engineering have reviewed and researched said request and have reported their findings to the Ascension Parish Planning Commission, and whereas the Ascension Parish Planning Commission, upon review of said petition, and after having considered all the facts relevant to this request, have recommended approval of the proposed revocation request. The Parish of Ascension hereby ordains that it grants approval of the revocation of the portion of the utility servitude more fully described in Exhibit A, attached hereto and made a part hereof, located on and across Lot 99 of the second filing of Oak Alley Estates.
Open the public hearing.
Motion by Councilman Satterlee, open the public hearing.
Second.
Second by Councilman Lambert. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, come up, sign it with the secretary, be given 3 minutes.
Motion to close.
Motion to close by
Second.
Councilman Lambert, second by Councilman Satterlee. Move to ordinance.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Lambert, second by Councilman Malonzo. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes. Number 26.
Purpose, pursuant to the Ascension Parish Charter Sections 4-12 and 6-01, to abolish the East Ascension Parish Hospital Service District, to repeal Section 18-50 of the Parish Code of Ordinances and related matters. Whereas in Section 1850 of Article 5 of the Parish Code of Ordinances adopted in the year 1962, the Parish of Ascension created the East Ascension Parish Hospital Service District. Whereas since the creation of the East Ascension Hospital Service District, the Service District has dutifully served its purpose and mission. Whereas the Commissioners of the East Ascension Parish Hospital Service District, through their chairperson, Cynthia Stafford, advised the Council of the Parish of Ascension at a Parish Council meeting on June 21, 2012, that due to the current delivery systems for health and medical care and the state of the health care industry, that it is cost prohibitive to continue the mission and purpose of the East Ascension Parish Hospital Service District. Whereas the Commissioners of the East Ascension Parish Hospital Service District further suggested that the East Ascension Parish Hospital Service District be abolished, and whereas the Charter of the Parish of Ascension in Sections 4-12 and 6-01 provide that the parish governing authority may abolish special districts and agencies within the parish, including but not limited to the East Ascension Parish Hospital Service District, and repeal ordinances. Therefore be it ordained that the Ascension Parish Council, as the governing authority of the Parish of Ascension, does hereby adopt this ordinance as follows. Section 18-50 of the Parish Code of Ordinances is hereby repealed. The East Ascension Parish Hospital Service District is abolished. By operation of law in this ordinance, all property and improvements, movable and immovable, assets, cash, funds, or of any type or source, accounts receivables, liabilities, obligations, and contracts of the East Ascension Parish Hospital Service District shall be and hereby are the property, assets, improvements, cash, funds, accounts receivable, liabilities, obligations, and contracts of the Parish of Ascension. Said property includes the following described immovable property owned and acquired by the East Ascension Parish Hospital Service District on December 13, 1965, less and except any subsequent conveyances or sell-offs. A certain tract of land situated in the Parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana, in the north half of the northwest quarter of Section 33, Township 9 South, Range 3 East, Southeastern District of Louisiana, and being more particularly described as commencing at the northeast corner of the northwest quarter of Section 33 and measures south 0 degrees 8 minutes west along the east boundary of the northwest quarter of Section 33, a distance of 663.1 feet to the north boundary of the south half of the north half of the northwest quarter of Section 33, then south 89 degrees 35 minutes west along the north boundary of the south half of the northwest quarter of Section 33, a distance of 1,579.18 feet, the north 0 degrees 8 minutes east, a distance of 666.53 feet, to the north boundary of Section 33, the north 89 degrees 43 minutes east, a distance of 1,579.05 feet to the point of beginning, containing 24.105 acres, all as is more fully shown on the plan of survey prepared by Durald F. Woods, C.E., dated Letcher, Louisiana, July 26, 1965, a blueprint of which is annexed hereto and made a part hereof. The parish president is authorized to sign and execute any documents and agreements required to effectuate and facilitate this ordinance, including but not limited to any documents regarding the transfer of title or ownership of property or funds from the East Ascension Parish Hospital Service District to the Parish of Ascension. This ordinance is adopted in conformity with Sections 412 and 601 of the Ascension Parish Charter.
Motion to open the public hearing by Councilman Kluwat, second by Councilman Lambert. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, come forward and sign it with the secretary. You'll be given 3 minutes.
Motion to close.
Motion to close by Councilman Saturday, second by Councilman Joseph. Any discussion? I'm sorry. Correction. Thank you, Randy. Got a motion by Councilman Kluwat for the ordinance, second by Councilman Lawson. Now we'll do the discussion. Any discussion on that? Mr. President.
I just want to take this opportunity again to thank the board of the East Ascension Hospital Service District for what they've done, and basically I want to let you know what the game plan will be. We'll go ahead and put out advertisement for architect to come in and look at what it would cost to renovate the building and to centralize all of our offices in that building. Also, in this contract with them, when we abolished it, that we agreed to continue the contract. So we do have a tenant on the top floor that, I don't know, Jeff, do you know how long that contract?
They gave a term of 6 months. Malcolm Dugas with the hospital service district is here. He could probably speak to that issue more easily since he helped negotiate it. But I think it's 1 year lease.
1 year lease, and also the Cairo Clinic also has a long-term lease that would also that we would honor at this time. So we'll get back with you on this. Once we choose an architect, we'll look at the cost and come back to the council and let you know how all that's going.
Just for a point of clarification, the Cairo Clinic's in the outbuilding, just on the northwest side or southwest side of the building, correct?
That's correct.
The a question with the lease for the tenant, is that currently, how far into the 1 year lease are they, Malcolm, do you know?
Just signed it.
Yeah, so I thought. I'm sorry?
That lease was executed today.
Today, okay,
Because
so
of
they
the
just started.
Necessity of having it signed before the abolition of the service district.
Not a problem. We know what we're getting. Any further discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Entertain a motion to go in executive session for Keystone Galvez, third file. Motion by Councilman Kluwat, second by Councilman Castle. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
OJ.
Councilman Lambert. Councilman Molossal.
Yes.
Councilman Satterlee.
Yes.
Councilman Shake Snyder.
Yes.
Councilman Turner.
Yes.
We are in executive session.
Yes.
Okay.
Motion to reconvene, Mr.
Motion by
Chairman.
Mr. Kluwat to reconvene, second by Mr. Shake Snyder. We're in session.
Motion to allow our legal and administration to move along on this subject.
Second.
Second by Mr. Turner.
We have a motion by Councilman Kluwat to move forward with the legal proceedings, second by Councilman Turner. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Number 30.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to adjourn by Councilman Lambert, second by Ms. Casso. Any objection? We are adjourned.